been a long journey as an entrepreneur, and just to start off, I want to tell you a little story. How many of you recognize this invention? Ha! What is it?
It's a beer
Okay. His name was William Painter. This is like 1892. Okay. Now, corporations, Samsung, Google, they're all suing each other right now, right? Over intellectual property. Can you imagine there was a race to the patent office to file patents for means to seal bottles? How many patents do you think were filed at this time for this idea? Over 1,000. You're shocked. But understand this, there was a bubble back then because we didn't have an easy way to pour fluids into a bottle, like a fizzy drink, an orange or whatever like that, and have a very cheap, inexpensive way to seal it. And a lot of entrepreneurs said, I can solve that problem. All right. Now, William Painter filed this application, and he then struggled for how many years? Nobody believed that you could seal a bottle and keep out the contaminants. For 7 years, this guy was begging companies to, quote, invest in his invention, because they literally didn't believe it would work. Okay, so what he did, he would travel to New York, get a marketing center. He got some beer, poured it in these bottles, sealed it with his invention, shipped it to the United Kingdom, and then it came back, invited the press back in the audience. He popped the cap on it, poured the beer, and there was a head on the beer. It was still fresh. Okay, but he struggled for years. This is what I call a catalyst invention. Maybe it created another industry that did not exist. And what was that industry? The beverage industry. Coca-Cola, Pepsi. They would not exist without this invention.
Did he become rich?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the bottling company, the cap bottling company became $1 billion entity. Until. But I'm just telling you, there's a lot. Yeah, so another disruptive invention came in. Disruptive bottle cap. Okay. I tell you that story because there's so many times that little inventors like myself, we have an idea, but nobody believes us. Okay. And what I'm trying to say basically is that, Paul, can you do a little demo for me?
I can.
I'm going to hand you some primitive data, some text on this. Just pretend it's an XML file, right? And I just handed that to Paul. Now I just want you to. Where's Stan? Where's Stan? Can you pass that on to him?
Ah, sure.
Okay.
See if I can force this. Here you go, Stan.
Now I'm gonna ask a very simple question. Can I control who Stan now hands this to? No way. Okay. Now wonder if I put that data inside of a technology that I can continue to talk to. All right? This is a metaphor, guys. Don't give me back my phone. All right, but the idea is that I'm creating a sort of intelligent container that has my policies attached to it. So no matter where it goes, even if you handed the application somewhere else, my policies travel with it.
Actually, if you don't mind me interrupting, the cell phone is almost a very good example because it has a geolocation on it that he could track from a different location, and it has a kill switch on it that he could type in and wipe all the data.
Now, I was pondering this problem as a Java software engineer back in the 90s. My first job out of UCSD was working for an organization in Santa Monica that did a lot of classified programs. And I'm out of college, but I didn't know zip about security.
What was that first initial R?
The System Development Corporation was a spin-off of Rand Company,
Right.
and they built their warning systems. Okay? And I was really told that I had this badge on me all the time, and cameras and dogs and whatever like that. And they said, Kevin, we have what's called secret, top secret, and there's what's called compartmental. And you don't know who's in the compartment. Okay, and you can't tell from the badge. This is compartmentalized information. Maybe you're able to control it and create your own little communities and quote trade secrets with each other, control them as they travel around. So this was an initial patent application back in the mid-90s. And folks, what motivated me to stop development and start pursuing this whole patent journey was what Microsoft did to a little company in San Diego called Stack Electronics. And you know Stack?
Yes.
Okay, what does Microsoft do to these guys? Well, essentially they crushed them.
I think what they did was, I know what they were compression technology.
Correct.
And I think Microsoft incorporated their own software.
Right, and so a 2.5-year battle started, and do you win in court with Microsoft?
No.
Well,
Not
after they,
You're in the old days.
they had to get rid of all the employees, all was left was a couple of attorneys, but they got a $100 million judgment against Microsoft from the judge. And all this long process was a negotiation over price. Okay? All right. So I, as a software engineer, said to myself, I will never survive a fight. Google didn't even exist at that time, but I would never survive a fight with the Microsoft. So I've been plodding along, and now you're seeing some prototypes. But let me go back to the main idea here. And we'll talk a little bit about now struggling forward is how to implement and then take this technology to market. Now you may have a great idea, and again, my mission is very simple. Maybe you don't understand this or get this. I'm a privacy activist. I believe that we ought to be able to control our data wherever it exists. Now, do we have any control right now? Nope. Does privacy non-existent? Okay. I'm against that. Okay. Just as one little inventor, I'm simply saying, thank you. Okay. I think we ought to be in control of our stuff. Okay? And I think it's very dangerous if you look back in history, when you have governments or institutions that to treat all of us like slaves that they can simply control anytime they want. Information is the key to controlling a society. So this is a philosophical basis for why I do what I do. And I spent a lot of time researching what had gone on in Germany in the 80s. And maybe I'm not pronouncing this right, Information Selbstbestimmung. But the German Constitutional Court had a case before them in 1983. A company called Metro Group gave out a loyalty card. You know, like you get loyalty cards from Rouse and Safeway and such like that. But they embedded a chip inside of this so you could track you around. The
East
Germans
Germany,
did-
right?
What?
East Germany?
No, this is West.
West Germany.
Yes. In the German population, when they found that Metro Group was tracking around the store,
Which is Swiss, by the way.
what?
Which is Swiss company.
Okay, they got very, very upset. Okay? And this is one of the very first privacy faux pas. You know, this, if you're going to go in the data protection world, you learn about this case. But this went to the Constitutional Court. Do we have a right or do we not have a right of informational self-determination? Yes, no? I'm asking you guys a question. Do you feel that you have a right to control your data?
Yes.
Very good. All right. I do too. But right now, I've spent the last 10 years talking to the Qualcomms, the Googles, the Facebooks, and guess what? They're adamantly opposed to this invention. Okay?
That's where most of their money comes from, is harvesting information.
Have you ever, I was a kid, and I used to tease my dog and grab the doggy bowl and it would growl at me, and I think that was funny. You know, I'm getting in between a big company and their doggy bowl right now. Okay, their the personal information, how much money do you think Google makes every quarter off of our personal data? 9 billion. That's publicly disclosed information. Do any of you get a check in the mail? No, you don't. All right, so my mission is very simple. I want to put people in control of their information where it exists and allow us to determine if there's going to be some value or benefit for the use of our information, like our land. I want us to be able to determine the value for this. I want us to control our own advertising. Okay? So let me step back here. Now, I have been struggling to say to a big company, How do I take my little invention, which is the cap for the bottle, make it meaningful for your corporation? And I decided to go down the path, at least one marketplace, is the protection and control of an emergency medical record. I'll let that sink in for a second here. I'm a little inventor, like William Painter, trying to convince somebody to, quote, invest in my company, and I had to carve out an industry to say, well, who would want to control their information? How many care about your medical records? Oh yeah, okay. How many people do you think in 2013 experienced something called medical identity theft? How many people do you think? Okay, 1.8 million. Okay, that's bad. Okay?
Is that just here in the United States or around the world?
That's the United States. That's a bad number.
What's an example of?
Okay, medical identity theft, what exactly is that? Somebody gets a hold of my medical record, pretends to be me, walks into Scripps Hospital, gets a triple bypass, and guess who gets stuck with the bill?
That's not
Yeah.
nice.
That's nice. Okay. Now, the Panama Group has been surveying this issue for the last 4 years. There was a question on that questionnaire that said, now that you've been burned, now that you've had your identity stolen, now that your medical record has been polluted with somebody else's data, which is dangerous, people. To walk into a hospital and your record is now conflated with somebody else's crap.
Oh, it's worse than that, because HIPAA, because you've now got someone else's data on your medical record, the hospital won't let you see your own medical record because they'd be disclosing the other person's information.
It's a scary,
HIPAA
ugly
just
situation.
drives it nuts.
But the numbers started off about 55% of people said, now that I've been burned, I want control. I'm talking absolute control. I don't trust the hospitals, I don't trust the government, I don't trust anybody. That number now in 2013 is 78% of the population that has experienced this failure, okay, now wants absolute control of the medical record. So let me go back here to the idea here. I would like to be able to say to folks, let's give our medical information to the right people at the right moment. They mean, I got a heart problem now, I need to be in an ER room, I would like to dispatch my emergency medical record automatically because I'm being monitored by my Samsung, heart monitor. You know they're out now, right? Yeah, they're available on the market. San Diego alone has 400 companies working on things that attach to our bodies and measure our physiology in real time, okay? So this agent is dispatched to everybody in 25 miles, and they now, this is the prototype. Stan, just help me with this. Raise your hand, Stan. Help me getting the swipe thing working. Okay, but the point is that you now have a deployed emergency medical record in the hand of a person that can help you survive, and guess what? Is under your control. You don't trust Bob, Biff, and Bob, and Mike, okay? You don't, I don't, okay? So after 48 hours, those rules kick in, and the data is now locked down or gone, okay? Now, how am I, as a software engineer, going to guarantee control? Okay. Let me switch over here.
Do the insurance companies love you?
Do they love me? I don't know. Okay. How many have heard of Knox? One person. Okay. Two. Okay. There is a major war going on amongst the giants for control of this, right? They're all suing each other right now. They all got their patents and whatever. They're slugging it out big time. One of the ways they're going to slug it out is by who's going to own security for these devices. So Samsung did a clever thing about 2-3 years ago. They started pouring money into developing what is called Samsung Knox. This is secure enhanced Linux, okay? And this thing is from the ground up has been built with security. Now, I as a software developer says, hey, do I want to deploy a plain old Android? The answer is no. Okay? It's so much a mess, okay, from a security standpoint. It's easy to, crack a machine, get in there, get at anything in memory. Even though I might have policies and rules, etc., what I'm trying to do is say is that there's only so much I can do with software, okay? There's only so much I can do with software. So what I've discovered is that I would like, even though I can protect myself pretty good, there's some attacks I really cannot protect myself against, even with encryption and my policies, etc. And what I'm striving for is to, quote, have my technology available in what's called a trusted execution environment, a TEE. And not to go into the politics too much here, but you've got Global Platform, which is a group of corporations that are forwarding from ARM, what is called a trusted execution environment. NVIDIA, TI, Qualcomm, all licensed this technology years ago, okay? But the battle right now is that I, as a software developer, said, well, I'm like an SDK, so I can write what are called trustlets to run inside of a TEE, okay? But guess what? There's at least 3 or 4 companies got their hand out to little me saying, we need some money, okay? They want to charge me big bucks for this SDK. They also want to charge me for every time that app is downloaded to a machine via a trusted service manager, which is another entity. They're getting a little cash out of that. And if I offer my application to the Samsung Knox store, they're taking how much?
50%?
What?
50%?
A third. Is-
33%.
Right. So Apple does this right, Google does this, and Samsung says, hey, you're gonna be in our store, you gotta give us a cut of your application, okay? So I'm simply saying, as a poor little William Painter, I've got hurdles to overcome, but I have to, quote, give a piece of my pizza to a lot of different vendors out there. And I'm telling you right now, there's a line item talk gonna happen next week up at San Francisco at the Qualcomm conference. Is talk about the future of security in the mobile environment being presented by Qualcomm. The rumor is right now that I've been told by some higher ups in various companies is that there's some very big companies, I'm talking Oracle size, that are negotiating with Qualcomm size companies to somehow, can we break this thing up and get Java in there? Now I'm smiling, okay, because I like Java. Okay. And right now I'm forced to write things in the C, and from a security standpoint, that's probably one of the worst languages. Some companies have actually outlawed the use any further of C in their environments. They simply say from the security standpoint, you got too much access to memory, a whole bunch of other stuff. Let's start using strongly typed languages, etc. So I am moving towards being a reseller of Samsung Knox, bundling my application, so everybody in the FBI can be running what I'm doing. But I would rather have every citizen on the planet being able to control their stuff wherever it exists. So again, that's one of the dilemmas right now. Let me show you a couple of the slides here because I want to get your feedback. You know, Paul just said, man, what an ugly interface. But let me go forward here because I want to get feedback. And this is one other concept here. So I've invented this thing called a bottle cap for our identity. I call that a user-controlled identity. And I'm arguing that there's a whole bunch of markets. Now, when the bottle cap first got invented, they applied it to what? Selling beer, booze. Okay. You know, his first demo was beer, all right? But Coca-Cola didn't exist at the time. Carbonated drinks were just starting out, little fountains. You would go to a drugstore, get this carbonated drink, and they would flavor it for you, whatever, charge you a penny or whatever. But that was the beginning of an industry. And inventors, sometimes we get stuck and think, well, my invention is only good for this. And I'm telling you that the bottle cap was actually much more things were being evolving at the time. And I'm kind of considering, what else can I have a user-controlled identity for? So I'm thinking about the military. I spent a third of my career helping the military survive battlefield incidences, like getting shot, okay? And things like geolocation are very important to keep away from whom? Your enemies, okay? So I'm trying to package up an emergency medical agent for a wounded soldier and not allow our enemies to, quote, intercept those communications. And if they did, this thing is so well sealed up, only, quote, another soldier with our forces can actually read that. So that's one of the applications there. The medical is obvious. Yes, we all need to control our medical information. But one other thing is that wouldn't it be nice to be able to control on my phone, the use of my phone to send crap to me? Okay. Now, I use the word crap because when I was at KPMG back in the 90s, this is the late 90s, I and a group of other people were asked to testify before the FTC. This is like 1999, about sending advertising text messages to phones, okay? And the government wanted to know, well, how do people feel about getting messages unsolicited on your phones? How many of you love that? No, a U.S. senator's assistant got one of these text messages in New York, and immediately he started drafting a bill for his boss to sign to say, stop this crap. Because what do? We pay for those text messages. And back then it was much more expensive, okay? But I'm simply arguing 10 years later, I think all of us want to control who gets to see our personal information, like our geolocation, and we ought to be able to control, quote, incoming messages to us, okay? I want us to be able to do that. So they call that trusted advertising agent. All right, so let me fast forward here. Now a little bit about how agents talk to each other. This is a little techie, okay? Basically, I go for the position, I don't trust anybody, okay? All right, so only my agents, when I say my agents, I'm a little inventor like William Painter, and I'm simply say, hey, you want to buy one of these bottle caps and use it? Fine, go ahead. But once you create your little agent for yourself, it only talks to another agent, okay? In fact, agents never, as it were, simply pass primitive raw data. What they pass actually is a software object that has policy, audit, interact protocol, certificates, key structures, etc. I'm thrown in the kitchen sink, I know. It's a fat block, okay, with a bunch of stuff to protect itself, okay? So, Bob says, I want to meet a Carol who's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and from Sweden, okay? And Carol goes, I want to meet a guy with a job, right? Those are criteria, right? And so there's a trusted broker in the middle that receives these two agents inside of a trusted execution environment, right? Remember the TEE? And I'm going to allow this trusted agent to simply open up the kimono for a few seconds and say, Carol, you're from Sweden? Okay. And Bob, do you have a job? Right? And the broker goes, right on. You got a match there, brother. And so what happens, the rule processing occurs. But if Carol's not Swedish and Bob doesn't have a job, these two ships pass in the night. They never know that they have been met, okay? This is a privacy thing. But if Bob and Carol do have a match, I don't simply send Carol my little XML file and say, you know, here's my stuff. I actually clone myself so there's no Bob 2, and his policies and his data travel, again, united, because he still doesn't trust her, okay? And so Carol receives on her handset Bob's personal information agent with policy and data still intact. So Bob is still in control. So this is, again, part of the Java design here, to say, let's have objects with policies, etc., that travel together. I call this human digital integrity. I never separate my data from my ability to control. Okay? So again, I'm in control of the data wherever it exists. Now, how much time do I got? 5 more minutes? 4? 34. Okay.
We'll give you 30.
All right. Now, let me tell you some other issues that I've come across. How many know about HL7? Yes, okay. In the engineering world, we're trying to structure a bag of bits. So when we exchange data across the wire, it actually has semantics, format, meaning with it. So when it arrives on the other end, the other receiver can understand it because it's following some sort of standard. Right? We've been doing this for years, okay? So what's evolved in the realm of the medical information are various standards of ICD-10. This is a diagnostic code. And there's at least 30 different flavors of asthma. Okay. So I, as a software engineer, have to learn about this stuff so I can actually implement a, quote, set of data that's interoperable with another healthcare institution that's going to look at that ICD-10 code and go, oh, that's a J45.40. This person got asthma, light condition, So I know how to deal with that. I, as a database guy back for 7 years back in the 80s, had to work with standards all the time because we were sending data across the wire and we had to have all of these standards so we didn't hurt each other. This is, again, in a war environment. So I have to, not only do I have to, quote, learn how to, quote, develop my technology, but I'm also learning about a lot of standards and creating PIA data templates. So somebody can just say, oh, I need an HL7 medical record. It's already part of the system. And so I can interact with the HL7 based EHR system. Now, Paul said this screen was too busy. Guys, I am struggling with this because these are all the things that I want to control. Maybe I want to have an actions permitted to say, very granular, this person can display my picture. You know, I'm being very fine grained here. They can display my picture. They can store it on their phone, yes or no. I want to be able to say there are groups of individuals, could be my tennis buddies, whatever, but it's a group, and I want to be able to specify policy according to group. I also want to be able to specify roles, which the military usually calls RBAC, role-based access control, and they're stuck in that paradigm. So they already have a bunch of predefined roles that they define. I want to be able to interoperate with that sort of concept. Individual-based action. Carol, you can only do this with this. Okay, so I'm going down to individuals. Metered time. You can look at my picture for the next 20 minutes. Very granular again. Date range policy, Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays. You can look at my picture. But folks, I just went on and on and on. I want to audit on, etc. But I'm conceiving all this stuff because of several years working inside of KPMG and other firms with a lot of corporate policies that I've seen wrapped around data. And I need to articulate that and show that to the user. Now, here's my thought. This is expert mode, right? It's a lot of options there. So what we'd like to do is maybe boil it down to policy templates. Just give them 4 or 5 options, 1, 2, 3. This isn't, again, the context of the emergency medical agent. Maybe only send this to in case of emergency members, you know, police, fire, doctors, etc. Only send it out 25 miles. This doesn't need to go to New Jersey, okay? Secondly, access is only good for 24 hours. I don't trust anybody, audit on. Okay, anytime they interact with my agent, it's actually stored inside the system, inside of that software agent. Who's looked at what, where, when, how, and why. Third thing, after those 24 hours, I want you to do a hard lockdown. Again, I don't trust anybody. And thirdly, I am going to allow what's called in case of emergency override. And I will be able to have the ability to say, my agent's been deployed, I'm still in trouble here, I'm out of it, I'm in a hospital room, under surgery, etc. But I'm going to, ahead of time, I'm going to have an in case of emergency override so they can contact the operator and say, listen, I'm a doctor, give me a one-time password override. So they're going to get a code sent to them, and they're going to override the control on the record and get access to it. Again, I'm talking about life and death, okay? Now, some of you might want to say, I don't want an override, kill me. Okay, because I'm such a privacy nut. Let me die. Let me die. But I just want to impress on the idea, I'm struggling as a designer of the user experience between this world of, hey, it's my mom, she's 80. She'll look at that screen, yeah, I might get that, but she's not going to get this, right? All right, so this is what I'm struggling with, all right? Is put all these security controls in there and somebody can go in there and do that. The other thing is this. I spent 1 year back in the 90s working for an artificial intelligence / expert systems company. I met this wonderful PhD guy from the UK, this is Dr. Alan Shapiro. And he and some other folks cooked up these rule engines way back when. It was an induction system. And it could look at a set of rules and tell you where there were rule conflicts. I may create a rule that actually has no logic in it. A rule that says, hey, hide my phone number and only displayed on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then I have another rule that says display phone number and email every day of the week. So those two rules are in conflict. I want the system to actually be smart enough to tell you, hey idiot, you got a rule conflict here, and actually suggest a solution to that. Because these things are gonna get complex fast. So I wanna have some sort of expert system advising them. Okay, now there's a demo of the lockdown. And so on my phone, yes, I do have a little app. I show this when I go to conferences. And I simply say, here's a little example. Here I'm gonna press the lock button and it locks down. Now where I'm at right now with this demo is a Java application running in Android. Back to the hurdles here. I went under non-disclosure, things I can't say, but I'll say some of the things that are public. There's 3 companies right now in the global platform that essentially are controlling the deployment of what are called trustlets to run the trusted execution environment. And you've got G&D, you've got Gemalto, and you've got ARM and the new spinoff. And initially when I started negotiations, I said, you want to charge me what for an SDK? I'm talking over 30 grand. Oh, you got one. Right. How much does the Android development environment cost you from Google?
Download it.
Yeah. Big zero, okay?
Couple seconds of time.
And so I know there's a war going on right now because these companies, in my view, are throttling the industry. It's like the early cell phones. They really gouged a lot of us, and they could have probably gotten more cell phones out and adopted if they just lowered the cost of these things. But that war is going on right now. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. I just met another company based in New York that got the SDK for a lot less. And I'm like, so I'm calling these guys back because why did Bill, he didn't tell me the exact number. He said, "Okay, we didn't pay anywhere near that." All right, so who knows what's going on here. The second thing is that if Larry Ellison is going to essentially license Java to Qualcomm to embed inside the TE that they built for Samsung, I'd be happy about that. But I don't know where Larry is, on how much is he going to charge these guys. So I'm just simply saying, as software engineers, there's a lot of stuff out of our control, right? We just, we don't. So we wait and hope that maybe these tools will be made available to us. Okay, one other concept I'd like to share here. How many times have you walked into a hospital, a new doctor's office, and got a stack of maybe 7 or 8 pieces of paper to fill out?
Every time you go in.
How many of you ever have read the policy regarding privacy? The whole thing. Huh?
The whole thing?
Yes. Okay. One consistent clause that I've seen in every private, I do read them. Because I can't wait to, where's your privacy officer? I want to turn off this marketing crap. Okay. But they're all in there. Every time I've been there, there's this clause that says, now that we got a relationship, we have the right to, quote, send you stuff. Okay. And I go, how do I opt out of this? And there's no real explanation. They make it difficult. Okay. My trusted advertising agent tells you exactly what I'm going to charge you at the hospital for using my stuff. Okay, you all get that? Yeah. You want to send me some advertisement on a drug because I'm a diabetic? Well, you know now, right? And there's some vendor out there who's going to pay the hospital to get what? Access to moi, okay? And I want to control that brokering of my data to receive some ad on my phone. Now, how much would you charge to watch a 1-minute video? Just give me some numbers. What's your time worth? Okay? How much would you charge some advertiser to push you an ad about some diabetic medicine on your phone? How much would you like to charge them? $2.
$5.
What? 5. Okay.
Depends whether I'm interested or not.
I like the idea of a free market that we determine what our information is worth. Okay? And this is a very key concept. I would advise you never to sell your data. In my ecosystem that I'm trading here is that you license your stuff, but you never sell it. You remain in control wherever it is. I eventually think all this is going to end up in a cloud infrastructure. I did. It's going to be in the cloud. But I don't trust the cloud. I don't trust Amazon. I don't trust any of these cowboys. I'm going to bind my policy to my data, so no matter whenever that bag of bits hits that processor in a trusted execution environment, I know it's Kevin's policies. I don't want to put down HP or anybody else, but I frankly don't trust the corporation. Okay? I don't. So, as a security person, I want to have a high integrity system that's going to obey my rules. I'm going to have a high assurance capability to make sure that my rules, and this is the dark side. You ever heard the term non-repudiation? When you digitally sign something, you can't say that you didn't. You can go to jail, okay? So many years ago, I say probably over 10 years ago, we had this public key infrastructure that in every state, most every state's passed a digital signature law that recognizes digital signatures so they can be admitted to court. So under oath, I said this to the judge, but when you sign that affidavit, the court recognizes that you're under oath. You cannot say that you did not sign it. When you create privacy policies, you're digitally signing them. You're saying to all your relying parties, everybody receives one of your agents, you can trust that this data is true. Secondly, you can trust that these are the policies that I said, and I allowed you to send me that stupid little ad. Okay. So I'm simply saying there needs to be fairness on both sides here. If you authorize somebody to use your data to send you an ad, and you got paid a buck, guess what? You better read the thing. I'm trying to support the vendors too of the advertising revenue. I think they ought to have some mechanism to say, yeah, he didn't just blow me off and collect my dollar. He actually read the stupid thing. Okay. All right, reputation management. What the heck is that? Any of you ever had a bad experience with a hospital? A doctor?
Anybody have a good experience with a hospital?
Okay. One of the benefits of having identity agents that have the ability to sign other agents, namely my agent, I can take my agent and sign my mom's agent and say, yeah, she's my mom, okay? Or I might sign another agent that says, hey, he's a really good tennis player. Or here's another agent saying, this guy is a 5-year Java/Eclipse expert, and Paul knows the guy, and he's gonna vouch for him. Now you just said, oh. Okay, again, non-repudiation. If I sign somebody else's agent, you ought to say, uh-oh, if you know that you lied. Now, if you know that you told the truth, don't worry about it, okay? All right. But I trust Paul's experience as an experienced manager, has been in the job community for many years. He has an ability to act as an expert. What we call a KPMG is the person who has the capability to do what's called an attestation. And if I make a claim, I inspected this company years ago. They made this claim that they built this software and it was so good and whatever like that, and it was worth X millions of dollars. I went in there going, where's your documentation? What's that? I said, don't tell me this thing is worth millions. It's not an asset, it's a freaking liability. Okay? They didn't like my report. Okay? But I'm simply saying, as somebody who's been in the industry, they said, yeah, you gotta document this thing. You die, these guys are screwed. All right, so that's the true story here. So we said this is attestation. I want you to be able to attest to assertions made by other people who have software agents. Now here's another question for you. If somebody was going to attest the fact that you're either male or female, who do you think would be an expert at that?
Parents.
What?
Your parents and doctor.
Okay, parents, who else? A physician. A physician. How many vote for physician versus parents? Physician, how many to say? No, I'm just asking a question. If someone's going to sign your software engine and say, hey, you're a male, who would you trust more? The doctor or mom? know as a businessman that I have to get buy-in from the general population to download these things and start using them, right? Every little bottle inventor has to struggle with this. How do I get people to adopt my stuff here? I know doctors are pissed off right now at the government. They're losing money, people. They're getting shortchanged. When a Medicare patient comes in, they're getting paid less. You guys know this? People in California, doctors are steamed, okay? Some of them are, after being 25 years in this industry, they say, we're out of here, okay? So how do you create a new revenue stream for doctors? Would you like your doctor to have the ability to get paid for doing attestations? Namely, I have a software agent. Now, I belonged several months ago to Match.com as a dating website. Now, should we trust every little profile that's up at Facebook? No way. Okay. But right now, there's no real system. I think I know of one company that's actually doing a background check on people in the dating industry. But I'm simply saying that, what if you had a software agent that I would say was, the word is veronymous. It's verified identity, okay? And that veronymous identity has been attested to by a professional or medical community to say, yeah, you really are a girl, okay? Okay. I'm simply trying to go to the medical industry. You're getting hammered, your fees, whatever. What if you created another software service, a service, basically that says, I as a doctor am now going to use my expertise, and I'm going to encourage my patients to get the software agent. And let me tell you the other reason, which is probably much more important. 100,000 people die every year like clockwork, okay? This is Johns Hopkins patient safety researchers. These are very well-established surveyors of this whole question of hospital safety. And they say, you know, we got 100,000 people dying every year because what? Doctors are human beings, they screw up. I don't know if any of you have been in the ER room. I had a friend who was a nurse, just the horrific stuff that I saw every day, like a battlefield kind of stuff. They got seconds to figure out whether or not to inject you, who knows what, okay? And they're desperately calling around. Does anybody know this guy? He's ever been a patient over you or whatever, but they're trying to get some medical history on this guy before they start doing stuff to you. And so 100,000 people die like clockwork every year. Doctors have over 30 million Americans that have conditions that they're trying to encourage their patients to wear. Ever seen a wrist bracelet?
Yeah,
What?
Medalite.
Right. The sad fact is, most people don't like to wear them because of this stigma, okay? So I'm simply saying, put it in a software agent, let you control who gets to see it, when, where, and how. But it's a problem. Meaning I got 30 million patients out there who refuse to wear these wristbands, so when they do show up in the ER room, the guy knows what to do with them. So these software agents will travel to whomever, they're under your control, and they will save your life, and they will protect you. How much litigation do you think happens every year as a result of these doctor screw-ups?
No.
2 to 4 billion. Again, do the insurance companies love me? They might, because I'm going to save them a lot of money, because we're going to be able to stop these things. Okay.
Kevin, do you have any patent on this?
Yes. Let me wrap up with that question, and okay. This is an example. This patient was up, this individual was up in the, woods somewhere, some park, wildlife refugee. I don't know where all the emergency people are, do you? I don't, okay? But this individual's in deep problems. The wife is driving mad, the husband is bent over, he's got a heart problem, she knows it. She doesn't know where the closest hospital is. So fortunately, her agent was deployed, and that agent then reached into all these other people within the vicinity. So they now know where this person is. In most 911 systems, there is a commander, there's somebody who actually has the authority to say, you sit still, and because you're the closest to Bob and Mary here, you go intercept them. It's called situational awareness, you know. So you got the Army, this is their terminology. Do I know my environment? Do I know where my assets are? Can I command these people because of efficiency and time and perhaps rules of engagement, who to get there first? And tell me, did you all know this? That there are emergency workers in the area where I live who are in a fight with the fire department over budget. So they literally race with each other to get to the old people in this community I live in to justify getting more money. Okay. But I'm that's a sideline here. But I want to give the emergency care people the ability to have situational awareness and say, oh, here's this contract organization to supply emergency, they're the closest, send them. Oh, it's the fire department I ought to do that because they're just around the corner there. Okay, send Bob, forget Mike, right? I'd like them to be able to have this ability to do that. So to wrap up here, do I have patents? Yes, I do. And I gave up being a nice guy about 10 months ago. I got approached by 9, do you know what patent trolls are?
Yeah.
What are patent
Intellectual
trolls?
ventures.
What?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Nathan Marvel.
They were one of the first. There are red teams inside of these companies that literally watch every patent that pops out of the patent office. And I had another patent issue a year ago, 2 years ago. This is a true story. We file these patents and we wait for the government, somebody in the government, you wait in line for 3 years to finally get back to us. First office action, took 3 years, okay? I understand it's worse than that now, right? But we filed another patent after that. We wanted to add more claims into it. We waited 7 years. True story. So they gave us some more time as compensation, like another 2 years. They added on to the 20 years. But I waited all that time. I filed in 21 other countries. I spent over $250,000, and I will never file in Europe again. Okay. It is such a wired game for the legal community. It makes me sick now. Okay. And even though I have enjoyed working with some of my patent attorneys because it is an expertise that is absolutely necessary to have them, but there's some dark side stuff that goes on that is very upsetting to me because I'm going, you know what? I'm an inventor. I just like to, for this privacy stuff, yeah, I like to make some money off of it, but at the same time, I don't like the idea that I've got to give up a very large portion of my revenue to a bunch of wolves. I don't know if we're ever going to see legislation to change this, but I'm just telling you straight up, when you do a deal with one of these organizations, you think most contingency gets what? A third? You know, if you get in an accident, somebody says, hell, we're going to you, and I'll take a third of this. It's much higher game. Okay. But I am now getting paid because they've now gone after about 11 companies. And one of them, I'm not going to mention to you, they're very big, but guess what? They're going to fight this tooth and nail. Right? And I could never, little Kevin, survive a battle with a Microsoft or any of these guys without this troll industry. But I'm simply saying, even the trolls, you know, I want to say that they're asking too much out of me, but their response to Kevin, we're risking 40 million, or whatever. So figure that out. I'm just simply saying I'm in an industry here that's dominated by very big companies, and I will say this in closing. I just met a chief privacy officer at McAfee at a conference. I gave a little demo. She talked about privacy. It happens so rarely that I meet a privacy officer in a corporation that actually, as far as I can tell, sincerely believes that we all have a right to control our information. Because most of the lawyers that I meet inside big corporations, they're PR. Agree with me on this? They're to make the company look good, that we don't do any evil. Okay. But Google has to fire employees on a regular basis because they're voyeurists. Going into those databases and they're picking out girls, famous people, whatever. And thank God there are privacy people inside of Google who are firing these guys. Right? But they have so much access, guys. And so again, if you love the NSA, and I am a security guy, and I think we ought to go after the bad guys, but get a freaking warrant. Get permission. I don't know if you know this, but Sprint got an order from the government, from FISA court, to release a whole bunch of information. So did Yahoo. Y'all know this? Okay, Snowden released all this stuff. But what they didn't release immediately, and which came out later, is that several of these companies fought tooth and nail. So we say, you are violating the Constitution. Still, they got hammered by our government, and they still got fines. Okay, so this is the world we live in. Thank you.